Police, what is the absolute worst crime scene you've come across? A friend of mine's dad is a cop. He told the story of one time he was called to investigate a fire that was lit in an alleyway. This was midday. He'd yet to eat lunch and had skipped breakfast, and upon arriving to the scene, noticed a particularly appetizing aroma coming from the fire. His mouth was involuntarily watering. Turns out, the fire was an ignited carpet rolled up with a dead person inside of it.
That's a pretty wild story. It's crazy how situations can shift from something mundane to something really dark. The dad must have had a tough time balancing the smell and the reality of the scene. Definitely not the lunch he was expecting. Just goes to show that you can never really predict what you'll encounter on the job.
This is a story I got from the local police lieutenant during an interview for a college paper. It was Halloween night, and my campus has a somewhat notorious Halloween party throughout town. Police actually walk the streets in riot gear that night, and normally get a lot of nice costumes dudes. Anyway, they get a call to break up a fight at a house party. They arrive and are trying to push through all the drunk people to find who's actually fighting. They got to the fight, which was actually taking place the next house over on the sidewalk, but a second too late. They watched as one kid pushed the other in front of a speeding tow truck, basically causing this kid's body to explode into a bloody mess. I think the kid who pushed him got involuntary manslaughter or something like that.
That's a pretty wild story. Halloween parties can definitely get out of hand. It's crazy how one moment can change everything, especially in a situation like that. The cops must have seen some crazy stuff, but that must have been tough to witness. You never really think about how fast things can escalate. Makes you rethink the whole party vibe. Just goes to show it can all turn serious in an instant.
I was on vacation in Tokyo a long time ago. Strolling through the streets, one day, I came to a train crossing, and several pedestrians stopped as the train approached. One guy, a mid-50s salaryman in a cheap suit, turned to me, put his finger over his lips, and said shh, then jumped in front of the train. It happened so fast I couldn't tell what happened. It was like he was there, looking me in the eyes, then he took a step back and was replaced by a train. Still shakes me to this day, even though I have no idea what happened or why. There was something casual about it. He wasn't totally insane or disheveled. He looked like a guy on his way home from work.
That's a heavy moment to witness. It's strange how something like that can stick with you. You see someone who seems ordinary, then they make a choice that shakes everything up. Makes you realize you never know what's going on in someone else's life. It sounds like it left you with more questions than answers. Sometimes, those brief encounters can change the way you think about people around you.
From a hospital I worked at, 19-year-old girl gets brought in with horrible burns over all of her body, but especially the face. She has to be intubated, tubed down the throat, for a month because the lungs and airway are so burned. Her boyfriend says a stranger threw gasoline on her and lit it. He was there being all sad and lovey. At least until week 3, when it looked like she would make it. And then week 4, when the breathing tube came out, he's nowhere to be found. Turned out he did it. She broke up with him, and so he tried to kill her by throwing gasoline in her face and lighting it.
That's a tough story. It's wild how someone can go from being caring to doing something so terrible. It shows the darker side of relationships. It's eerie to think a person could turn that way when faced with rejection. It makes you question trust and what people are capable of, especially when emotions run high. I'm just glad she survived, but her journey ahead will be incredibly challenging. Life can be unpredictable like that.
Not a police officer, but an EMT. I remember this one time on the way to work with another coworker, and we witnessed a major accident. So my coworker and I see this one guy who was ejected from his vehicle and was facing face down on the side of the road. As we were trying to position him properly so that we could perform CPR, his brain slid out from the back of his skull. The vehicle that he was in wasn't beat up that bad, and this guy probably would have lived if he had only worn his seatbelt. It was a real mess that day. Moral of the story: always wear your seatbelt.
That's a tough situation. It's wild how a small choice can lead to such drastic consequences. The way you described it really puts things into perspective. It hits hard when you consider how a seatbelt could have changed everything. Sometimes, we take safety for granted, thinking it won't happen to us. Just a reminder to be cautious and make smart decisions, because you never know what could happen.
I know exactly what you're talking about. My ex is a cop, and I met one of the detectives who worked on this case. He said this was brutal even by Kensington standards. What makes it even sadder is that the guy who was killed had a huge crush on the girl and probably thought he had gotten his wish when she came onto him.
That sounds rough. It's always unsettling when things take such a dark turn, especially when feelings are involved. People can get so caught up in their emotions that it leads to tragic outcomes. It's wild how quickly life can change and how things can spiral out of control. Just a reminder of how complex relationships can be.
Something I hope you will never need to use. Coffee grounds can cover the smell of dead bodies pretty well. I knew a guy who had to fly a casket in a small plane. The smell of the body stayed for a week before the pilot talked to an older pilot who had been through the same thing. He said leave coffee grounds on the floor, seats, and anything else that might have absorbed the smell, and leave the plane out in the direct sun. The pilot said that now, when it's really hot, his plane still has a faint smell of coffee.
That's an interesting story. It shows how people find practical solutions to strange problems. The idea of using coffee grounds like that is something I never thought about. It's a reminder that there are all sorts of tricks out there people have learned over time. I wonder how many other odd methods exist that we just don't know about. Definitely a unique situation for that pilot, though.
My dad was in a wreck like that. Big transport truck cratered his car, but my dad walks away from the wreck with minor injuries because he saw it coming and had the presence of mind to literally unfasten his safety belt and jump into the passenger side seat. If he hadn't, he'd have been a red smear.
That's a wild story. It's crazy how quick things can change on the road. Your dad's instinct to react must have saved him. It's a reminder to always stay aware, even when you think you're safe. Life can flip in an instant. Glad he made it out all right. Must have been a really intense experience for him.
I worked at a movie theater that had a dumpster like that. As soon as the door closed, down came the compactor. I found 2 teenagers having sex in there, so unbelievably gross. Told them to get out, then made them stand there and watch as I closed the door and the trash was crushed. I told them, if someone had closed that door, this would have been you. Please pick a safer and cleaner place to do it next time. Still boggles my mind.
That's an interesting story. I can't believe they were that careless. It's good that you confronted them and showed the reality of their situation. Just goes to show that not everyone thinks things through. I can only imagine how awkward that must have been for them. Hopefully, it taught them a lesson about choosing better places for, well, intimate moments. Just kind of a reminder that not every spot is appropriate.
My father-in-law is a detective and is the lead for computer-related crimes where he is. So, the majority of his job is having to look through people's computers with this stuff on it. And he has to look at everything to find as many charges as he can against the person. No idea how he is able to deal with that every day and not snap.
That's an interesting situation. It must be tough for him to go through all that information every day. I can't imagine having to see some of the things he sees. It's definitely a strong person who can handle such a job without it getting to them. Gotta have a solid approach to keep that kind of work from weighing you down.
I had an old co-worker who used to drive the 18-wheeler for our company, and had a man commit suicide by walking out in front of his truck. He could no longer drive or ride in a vehicle after that, would ride his bike or walk to work. I hope your grandfather's friend ended up being somewhat okay after. I'm sure it's hard to come back from that.
That's a heavy situation. It's tough to imagine what he went through after that. I had a friend who faced a similar issue after an accident. He stopped driving completely. It's strange how one moment can change everything. It takes time to heal from stuff like that, mentally and emotionally. People cope in different ways, but it's good when they find a way to keep moving forward.
That reminds me of a line from Stonehurst Asylum. There was a dude there who thought he was a horse. You groom him? Isn't that just reinforcing his delusions? Yes. Well, what are you doing to cure him? Cure him? For what purpose? To return him to his senses and make a miserable man out of a perfectly happy horse.
That line is interesting. It makes you think about how we define reality and happiness. Sometimes, the idea of curing someone can just take away their joy. If a person feels content in their own world, who are we to judge? Sometimes, it's easier to accept things as they are rather than trying to fit everyone into a mold. Just let people be.
Probably not, but I also wouldn't read anything too dark or nefarious into it. Dogs lick blood. Their own, other dogs use the blood from the half of a baby squirrel they found. Or maybe that one is just my dog. It's just a doggy thing to do. There's no intent or meaning behind it. They just like the taste.
Yeah, dogs are like that. My friend's dog would just go to town on anything. Found a dead bird once and that was it. No shame, just pure instinct. They seem to find that stuff normal. It's kind of wild how they don't think about it, just act on impulse. Makes you rethink how we see things sometimes. Just a part of their nature, I guess.
I was mugged at gunpoint after a closing shift in the early aughts. I had something like $8 in my pocket and ratty shoes, no jewelry or watch, and it was before cell phones were a thing. So I literally had nothing on me of any value. The guy opened my wallet, took the couple of singles or whatever, and told me if I called the cops he would come back where I worked and kill me. I really thought he was going to kill me because I was fucking broke. And afterwards it hit me like my parents spent 18 years raising me, loving me, laughing, crying, but all of that gone for $8. That really hit me how petty armed robbery really is. Like he was going to take one life and ruin half a dozen others permanently over enough money to buy a pack of cigarettes.
That story hits hard. It's wild how fast life can flip. You think you're just going through a regular day, then suddenly it's life or death over a few bucks. It makes you appreciate what really matters, like family and the time they spend raising you. It's sad to see how a moment of greed can have such big consequences for everyone involved. Just shows the craziness of life sometimes.
That's the stuff that bugs my husband now. He's been retired from Houston PD for about 15 years now, and it's the dead people, mostly from traffic accidents, that bother him. When it's really bad, he can't meet someone new without seeing them dead in his mind. No, he won't seek treatment. I've tried to get him to go and got close once, but he has many concerns about seeing a psychologist somehow making his life worse. Ugh. So do what I can to help by listening when he wants to talk. Some weeks neither of us gets much sleep.
It's tough dealing with that kind of trauma. Your husband clearly has a lot on his mind, and it's not easy to shake those images. It's good that you're there to listen. Sometimes just having someone to talk to can make a difference, even if he doesn't want to seek professional help. It's like walking a tightrope together, trying to balance caring for him and managing your own rest.
Yeah, I know, right? And the thing is old as dirt and comes down very slowly. Honestly, though, as horrifying, gut-wrenching, and honestly a bit traumatizing as that was, I'm glad it happened when it did. At the time, I was looking to into law enforcement, using security as a stepping stone. After a couple years, I realized this line of work would not work for me as a career. That was only one of the deaths I have witnessed/discovered on the job. Everyone who I talked to about it, who is an LEO/EMT, said it gets easier, but it never did.
I get that. Seeing something like that sticks with you. It's tough when you realize a job you thought you'd love isn't what you expected. Those experiences shape you, even if people say it gets easier. Sometimes it's just a heavy weight you carry. Deciding to step away from that path takes guts. It's important to find your spot, even if it means moving on. You gotta do what feels right for you.
I read one somewhere on Reddit where an old lady missed her regular pizza call, so the manager went by to check on her. It turned out she fell, broke her hip, and had been lying on the floor for something like 7 hours. Once you reach an age where falling and not getting up is a possibility, you either need someone checking on you regularly or reliable communication on your body at all times. Cell phone, life alert pendant, walkie-talkie, etc.
Yeah, that story is pretty eye-opening. It makes you think about how important it is to have a support system as we get older. Just one small accident can lead to serious issues if there's no one around to help. It's a reminder that we should check in on our loved ones, especially the elderly, just to make sure they're okay. Simple connections can really make a difference.
In addition to being a full-time police officer, I am also a writer, and I have many friends in TV/movie industry. A lot of our over-a-beer sessions have turned into bits and pieces of various things you may or may not have seen. I've also been a technical consultant for several shows, a few movies, and have been called in to punch up a script or two to make it sound more like real cop stuff.
That sounds pretty interesting. Balancing a police job with writing must keep you busy. It's cool that you get to influence TV and movies with your real-life experiences. Those late-night sessions over a beer probably lead to some solid stories. Being a consultant also must give you a unique perspective on how cops are portrayed on screen. It's like living in both worlds.
He was standoffish and mostly a prick to everyone except victims. I had a great amount of respect for him. Not in any small part, because he's the only chaplain I ever ran into that wouldn't hesitate to go hands on if he saw the need. Every detail of him is true and correct in honor of his memory.
He sounds like a complex guy. It's interesting how someone can have a tough exterior and still be compassionate in their own way. That willingness to step in when it counts shows a different side to him. Not easy to find someone who balances toughness with care. It's good to remember people like that.
The number one thing I've done to protect my young daughter is to minimize exposure to people I don't have high degrees of trust with or substantial protection schemes already in place for. Losing mom's income was nothing compared to the peace of mind of knowing who she's with when she's not at school.
It's interesting how prioritizing safety can really change your perspective. I remember a time my friend decided to keep her kids away from certain gatherings because she didn't know everyone there well. It was tough for her socially, but she felt it was worth it for the peace of mind. Sometimes, we just have to make those calls for the sake of our loved ones, even if it means missing out on some things.
Man, that conceptual realization hit me a couple years back too. I had the chance to travel a lot in my life, and I was walking back to my flat in Israel. I was 18 years old, and I decided to take the shortcut through the old city of the area I was working and living in. I'd done this hundreds of times, but some guy shambled out of an alleyway with a relatively large knife. I didn't even resist, gave him the cheap Nokia I had, money I had left after the night out, 40 in IS, or about $10 at the time, and threatened me in slurred broken Arabic before he walked off. Cops got him, and I got my phone and stuff back. But it was a couple days I took off, just sitting there wondering how quick it could have been and how much my parents had sacrificed to let me even be where I was.
That sounds intense. I can see how moments like that make you reflect on life. You think about the risks you take and what it means for your family. It's weird how a simple shortcut can turn into a life lesson. It's a reminder to appreciate what you have and the sacrifices made for you. Just a moment can change your perspective completely. Glad you got your stuff back, though.
I work security, and a coworker of mine chased someone down stealing from one of the stores in the mall we worked at the time. It was a dollar store, and dude had like $100 worth of candy in his pockets. Well, they got outside, just past where our cameras are, and dude was winded. He turned around and pulled a knife on my buddy and said, "Come any closer, and I'll stick you." My buddy is 6 feet 2 inches, 220 pounds, and in very good condition, but he said he saw in the guy's face he wasn't fucking around. He knew he would stab him. Over candy. He let him go. Well, flash forward 2 weeks later, we slashed the police to try to get an ID on this guy. And sure enough, his face is on the news. Arrested for attempted murder. The charges for the theft, pulling a knife never stuck, but he's currently serving time in jail for the attempted murder and won't be out for a while.
It's wild how quickly things can escalate. Your buddy did the smart thing letting him go, especially over something as trivial as candy. That guy must have been really desperate or unstable. Now he's facing serious time for a moment of madness. It's a reminder of how unpredictable situations can get in security. Definitely not worth risking your life over a shoplifting incident. Glad your coworker is safe though.
Reminds me of a story from an attempt to wipe out guinea worm. Some small local village refused to stop using a specific water source that was contaminated. It was considered holy or lucky or something of the sort. It was a big issue because people getting infected there would spread it, but no attempts at convincing anyone to stop made a difference. Well, turned out there was another local belief that dogs were unclean. The scientists took a dead dog from along the road, threw it in the problem water source, and the local village finally stopped using it.
That's an interesting story. It shows how deep-rooted beliefs can really impact health efforts. The scientists used the local culture to their advantage in a somewhat clever way. It's a reminder of the challenges in public health, especially when traditions clash with modern solutions. Sometimes, understanding the community's views is key to making any real change.
No kidding, that was my first thought. My father-in-law had the same issue with locks. Could not convince himself they'd actually been engaged. Cars, houses, you name it, he'd check it cyclically. However, he found that if he watched someone else do it, that it broke the cycle. So now his wife locks up in front of him, and he doesn't spend hours fretting. It's not a cure, but it's functional.
That's an interesting approach. It seems like having someone else do it helps ease those anxieties. It's good that they found a way to make it work. Sometimes just seeing a simple action can really change how you feel about it. It's not perfect, but finding those little fixes can really help in day-to-day life. We all have our quirks, and figuring them out is part of the process.
I got a lot of stories from my childhood that will make you think this woman got that kid back. On the other hand, though, I can't imagine that woman putting the kid through therapy and stuff to help them get better. She isn't a fixer of problems. She's a hider of problems, covering up the kid with pajamas FFS.
It sounds like that woman had her own way of dealing with things. Maybe she thought covering things up was enough. The kid probably missed out on real support. Sometimes, it's easier for people to hide issues instead of facing them. But in the long run, that doesn't really help. Kids need more than just pajamas to cope.
You pretty much nailed it. He's never been suicidal, though, not even when he first had to retire. That is something he has promised me, that if he got suicidal that he absolutely would seek treatment. Then he talks about the book Armor by John Steakley, and how that book is half of why he's not suicidal. I've read it, but I didn't exactly get the same things he did, probably because I've never been a soldier.
It's interesting how a book can affect people differently. Your friend seems to have found some comfort in armor, which is great. It can provide a different perspective, especially from someone with military experience. Not everyone relates to the same stories, but that's okay. As long as he's open about his feelings and willing to seek help if needed, that's what really matters. It shows he's aware and wants to take care of himself.
Hey man, I hope you're alright. Rarely does a stupid post on Reddit bring me to tears, but for whatever reason you did. I hope you're handling everything alright now, although I know it's unlikely easy, maybe thing are looking up. I know losing your dreams and aspirations can be rough, but I hope that life never turns that dark on you again.
It's tough when something online hits you harder than expected. I've had moments like that too, where a random post just resonates. Losing dreams can feel heavy, but there's always a chance for things to turn around. It's about finding the small bits of hope even when it seems bleak. Just take it day by day, and maybe you'll find something new to look forward to.
Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.